Welcome to the Mental Health Boot Camp podcast.
Woo!
The podcast where four psychotherapists, three of us from Canada, one of us from America, serve you cutting-edge mental health knowledge. I am Dr. Ryan Howes, a psychologist from Pasadena, California.
And I am Madame Bijou from, so for those listeners who are listening, not watching, we decided to wear costumes today. And I'm dressed up like Madame Bijou from the movie Titanic. But I am actually Dr. Brooke Lewis from Vancouver, Canada.
And I am Joanna Boyd, also from Vancouver, Canada, dressed as Minnie Mouse. And today we have the pleasure of a guest with us. We actually got ambushed, Brooke, Ryan, and I. Usually Chris, my brother, is with us today. But now we have the pleasure of my dad. So my dad, Dennis, is a psychologist. And he also lives in Vancouver. And he's been practicing for just about 44 years now. So we're happy to have you here, Pop.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
And you are the wizard, is that right? Are you Merlin himself?
Yeah, that's what I am, in case you're wondering. I've got my wizard outfit on here and keep it nearby in case I need it, and tonight's the night.
That's great. I'm some sort of, I think I'm going to say that I'm Columbo. You guys familiar with the old detective series Columbo?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Never watched it, but definitely have heard.
And he had a great line of questioning. He would just say, well, no, I don't understand anything about this. So maybe you could explain to me something, right? And he would get people to talk that way just by acting dumb. It was great. So we are so thrilled to have you here, Dennis, and your wealth of knowledge here on this special Halloween episode.
Thanks, Brian. Good to be here.
That's great. So we'll say that again.
I think it's good to be here. I have to wait and hear what the ambush is.
Yes.
Yeah, the ambush is always a real surprise. We're not sure if it's going to be a trick or a treat, so we kind of got to wait for that. But everything going okay? Everything going okay for you guys this week? You guys gearing up for the holiday?
Well, it's hard here because that old COVID's roaming around, so they're encouraging us to cut it back to just households. We were going to have the privilege of having a few friends in, and they said, nah, just keep it to your house. So it's going to be quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And here we've been advised to do the same. Trick-or-treating is really not as frowned upon, and not frowned upon. Here in LA County, it's actually, they've declared it a no-go. Don't go trick-or-treating. But I've heard some rumors that people are still going to throw some parties, so we'll see what happens there.
That's tough. So Ryan, I don't know if we mentioned this last week, but my friend got COVID.
Oh no.
Yeah, so she's fine. It's my friend, her husband, she has two kids. So my friend and her husband tested positive. The kids tested negative. They never had any symptoms, which is good. The kids are 6 and 4. Mild symptoms, so no smell, no taste, cough, and fatigue. She's coming out of it now, starting to feel better. He's still quite fatigued, but this is that's definitely the closest person.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's starting to surround me a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very sobering. So she got it from her yoga studio.
Oh gosh, that's too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you known anyone kind of more personally?
I've had several clients actually who've had it. A handful of my clients have had it, and some very close friends of mine also have had it. And fortunately, it was mild enough they weren't hospitalized or anything like that. But still, it's very scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very scary.
How do you feel about your upcoming election?
Oh, there's that there too. That's another scary part of the next few days is our election. Yeah, I think it's I've heard that tension is pretty high out there right now. I have a friend in San Francisco, and they're saying that his building is actually boarding up the bottom floor because it's kind of a common protest area, and they're just kind of gearing up and preparing for whatever the outcome, that there may be a little bit of civil unrest at that point. So it's kind of tense down here, gotta say.
Well, we'll be watching.
Good. You'll be watching, and if a certain outcome occurs, you might have to watch your borders, because there's gonna be a bunch of people flooding those borders.
Yeah.
Trying to get across. Please take me, Canada.
Yeah. There's only room for one family.
Okay, and that's mine, right?
Yeah, exactly. We'll give you a golden ticket. We'll get you up here.
Bring me up. I would love that.
Okay.
Well, okay. Our esteemed panel of costumed psychotherapists here. Maybe we should dive into our ambush for the night. I'm excited about this. Joanna, I think you're the one up tonight. Is that right?
I am, yes. This is a topic near and dear to me.
Okay.
So I probably give you some guesses as to what it might be, but you won't be surprised when this comes through. So here it comes, Ryan.
Okay, get ready, everybody. I'm gearing up for the ambush. I could read this ambush, but let's just hold it off until a little bit later. What do you say?
No surprises there.
The topic is procrastination. What are your thoughts on it? How do we procrastinate? And how would you help someone overcome it? Procrastination.
So why do we procrastinate, and how do we overcome it?
Yeah, why do we procrastinate, and how do we overcome it? There we go. So why is this something that's near and dear to you, Joe?
It's funny. I was earlier today. I was like, I wonder what we should do, and then I just thought of it, and then I just like, that's it. I'm probably, as the people close to me know, I'm a big procrastinator. I've always been a big procrastinator. My dad would know this very well. Stemming back to high school days, it plagued me through, all my schooling, and even now, everyday life. It's something I really struggle with. So this is actually a topic that will help me personally, because I'd love some thoughts on it. And it also is something that I hear so many clients deal with. It just seems you hear it from so many. I procrastinate, whether teenagers or it's mostly teens, I feel, some adults as well. So I just want to jump in and get some thoughts. And are
you asking us to help you with your procrastination, or
I'm hoping to benefit from this? I just think it's interesting. I have my own thoughts on why I procrastinate. I think it extends beyond. A lot of people, I think I just need more time to do things. That's one thing for me. I just need to be less busy, have more time. But then I can have all the time in the world, but I still don't get things done. And so I think procrastination goes a lot deeper than people think. So just would love to hear your thoughts.
Great topic, Joe. Great topic. Mm-hmm. And you're right. I think it's applicable to, I think everyone at some point has procrastinated something. So everyone can relate to this. And for some folks, it can be a real problem, right? That holding something till tomorrow, or pushing it off, or sometimes you'll miss deadlines as a result of that, or some serious work can get missed. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good topic to talk about. Yeah. So what do we think? Anyone have any thoughts on this procrastination? Why do we procrastinate?
Dennis, you nodded a lot. I'm throwing it right to you.
I wonder if we don't all do it from time to time. I think what Joanna's referring to is much bigger than doing it from time to time. It seems to take over sometimes, maybe. But I was thinking of my den, and it's just next door here. And I go in there and I look around, and I just leave because there's a mess there, and it's I procrastinate getting that place cleaned up. And I thought with COVID I'd have more time. I haven't. I did a little bit, but then I remember a little time management thing that helped me out, and that was to go in for half an hour and just start messing around in my den and clearing stuff. And so I did, and I felt this great sense of accomplishment, and then I left. So for me, it tends to sort of help to do baby steps or bite off little chunks, but I still don't bite too many chunks too frequently. So it's an interesting thought.
It is. It is.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Do you
one
think?
thing I give you, Kara, Joanna, and you can comment on this. I know you procrastinate, but I know when you focus and you decide you're going to do something, you crackerjack, you get it done lickety split, you do it thoroughly, effectively. So it's interesting. Maybe boredom slips.
I mean, and we don't need to focus too much on me here, but that's okay.
Myself.
I think I'm curious though. Do you think people procrastinate is more things that might be have-tos or things that they might be wanting to avoid for whatever reason? Or do you ever think people procrastinate on the things that they actually would bring them joy and want to do as well? Do you think there's a mix there? Or I don't know, even Ryan and Brooke, like, do you see procrastination a lot with your clients, or do people talk about it going beyond the usual now and then, but something that they feel overwhelmed by?
Oh, certainly. I certainly see that. I see it a lot in my clients who, gosh, I don't know that there's an age group to this, but a lot of my like college age students, clients tend to be like, oh, I'll get to that, push the extension on the classwork and kind of, I'll take care of it later. But I know I myself have dealt with a lot of procrastination, and I know that many of my clients do. Oftentimes what I see with procrastination with the clients I'm talking to is there's a fear that's kind of at the root of a lot of it, a fear of either the work itself, like I'm dreading and fearing like how it's going to feel to do that work. Mm-hmm. And also for some portion of them, there's a fear of the failure, fear of like, what if I have to face this and I put out my best effort and it's not good enough. And so that all feels icky, and they would just avoid that as much as possible. So I don't want to, I don't want to put myself at risk of damage or being hurt somehow. So I'll just try to avoid it as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's quite accurate. I see that a lot too, in teenage populations, young adults, especially around school, that sort of thing. So you tend to see people staying up all night to get things done the night before, studying the night before, right? But if you dig down, then yeah, a lot of it can be fear, I think. Some people it is disorganization, like just time management skills, or knowing or thinking it's going to take less time than what it actually does.
Yeah.
So pushing it off to get it done later. Sometimes it's, just that superficial, other times not so much.
I wonder with the fear, if a person lowers their expectations a bit and just chips away, that the fear might shrink a bit. But aside from that, the price I see people pay who procrastinate, the depression that comes with that, or the frustration or the upset or the tears sometimes, that's miserable. I mean, how that would seem to me be almost worse than going head on and trying to get it done,
Well, that's something that I talk with clients about too. It's like if you take the amount of, if you could quantify the amount of distress you feel when you're procrastinating for a week, right? And just say, okay, let's say you felt 3 gallons of distress every day during that week, and add that up. We got 15 gallons during a work week that you procrastinated. It just feels yucky. Whereas facing that might actually be only 5 gallons, right? If you were to just quantify it like that. Right. So you're just kind of stretching it out, prolonging the pain. And it just seems like it's damaging over time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to throw in another one though, too, which is, and I'm not sure if this is just a story that people tell themselves or something that's actually true for some folks, which is, I know a lot of people who say, I work best under pressure, right?
Oh, so common.
So I work best under pressure, so I'm going to save it until the night before, and that's when my adrenaline kicks in, and that's when I do my best work. So what do you guys think about that is that a little lie that we tell ourselves, or do you think there's some truth to that?
There's total truth to that, because that goes to anxiety and performance, right? So if you were to look at studies on anxiety and performance, it's a bell curve. So there's a sweet spot in the middle where we need a certain amount of anxiety to motivate us to get work done. And if we have not enough, we're not going to do it. It's going to be ineffective, or the work we put out isn't going to be as good of a quality as we want. But if we're over, then the same thing happens. That quality of work declines greatly, right? So we do need stress or crunch or pressure in order to get things done. So maybe part of that is the time pressure. I wonder too if it's something about intrinsic motivation. Like, is
How do you mean?
or
What do you
award
mean by that?
systems, right? Like, so I'm thinking like intrinsically from
Oh, we're losing you there, Brooke.
We're losing you, Brooke.
Really like having things tidy and put away, like a mess.
Hey, okay. Is she back?
You became a goblin there for a second.
She's
Brooke.
gone though, still.
Okay.
Am I back?
No.
Am I?
You're a little frozen.
Am I back now?
Oh gosh.
Uh-oh.
Let's just talk for a second about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, just to kind of define those terms. When people talk about intrinsic, that means something that you are internally driven to do. Like the best example would be like hunger. You know, hunger is an intrinsically motivating force. You feel that inside, you want to go get something to eat. Extrinsic is something that comes from outside. You know, I don't want to necessarily pay my taxes, but I do because there's an extrinsic motivation. The government makes me do that. So, so these are sort of distinctions. And people talk about how with, say, schoolwork or some tasks that are not so pleasant, it's hard to find that intrinsic motivation and say, all right, I really want to do this for one reason or another. Sometimes it's just to get this off my plate and get it out of the way. But of course, it's ideal if we can do it because we actually derive some pleasure from it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if some people feel real uncomfortable gathering those 15 gallons of stress during the week. They dislike that. So to shrink that down, they do a little here, a little there to kind of drain that down a little bit. And maybe others just are kind of tuned out. And I think I get pretty lazy sometimes and just want to put it off. But then the deadline comes, and as Brooke was saying, we got to get to it. But some people really love to plan ahead and get her done as they go. And I guess they don't like that uncertainty or the deadline pressure. I don't know. It's interesting.
It is. It is. All right, Brooke, I was kind of filling in for you while your vocals were not doing so hot. Do you have some more to add to that?
No. Can you hear me now?
A little bit, kind of dicey.
No.
We might try turning off your video too, Brooke, sadly. If we need to just go audio.
So Joanna, you have a chance now to give us your theory.
Oh, Pop. I think it's also subjective, I think. I think there's, I feel that. I feel like when I get something done, I'm like, why didn't I just do that before? I would have saved myself so much grief.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these things I'm procrastinating on truly do not take that long, and they do not take that much effort. You know, so I've asked myself what am I avoiding here? What discomfort am I avoiding? I think I have expectations for myself, and when I don't meet them, or if things build up slowly, and all of a sudden there's a mountain of things I need to do, it's daunting, and then I might be disappointed in myself. So it kind of is like this cycle, and then my motivation is down, and it's just avoidance. I am so good at it. I'm happy being a bump on a log in my place, knowing that I have so much to do, because it just causes me discomfort to even try tackling it. So I think I relate to a lot of clients who kind of speak about that. But
you know, it's just a side note there, Joe. There's a growing kind of movement out there among some mental health folks who are saying laziness is kind of a myth. Like, laziness is not. It's misunderstood. What you're doing when you're being lazy is you are successfully avoiding something. You're
I'm so good at it.
you're achieving something, which is the avoidance of the difficult task laying in front of you. Because so often, you ask a person, someone says, "Oh, I'm really lazy." Well, what did you do today? Well, I spent, 8 hours doing some task and doing some, playing video games even, or like there's people are still being active in some ways. But what they're doing is effectively avoiding what it is that what they don't want to do, right? So you've got a good, strong, rebellious side to you that says, nope, can't make me. You're not the boss of me. I'm not going to do it if I don't want to. But then eventually something does kick in, right? I mean, you don't procrastinate all the way, right? Is it just this sort of getting to the ideal level of stress in order for you to finish a task?
Yeah, it varies. I think it depends on different things. Yeah, it kind of gets to the point where I'm very uncomfortable with the feelings that have been produced from it, and yeah, it's that I'm not enjoying this. Like, I need to make a change. I'm not happy with what's going on right now, and then I'll do it, and I'll feel great, and I'll be like motivated to kind of keep making changes, and I try to stay on top of that and create new habits for myself and whatnot, right?
Sure.
So but I've read about the intrinsic and extrinsic stuff, and I feel like, I wonder if some people, like I was reading about this recently, and I wonder your thoughts, is that, I have so many plans I want to have for my future self. And I think when we start to think of our future selves, we can make some steps, and, I'm doing this for my future self, or whatever, I'm going to keep going to the gym for my future self, or I'm going to keep on top of my bills for my future self, or, but then in the moment, we almost it's almost like we tailor to what we instantly get gratified with, or we kind of forget to, like, I want to do something else in the moment. And then all of a sudden you forget about the plans for the future self, because you just, in the moment, I want to do something else. I want to sit and, spend time with a friend instead, or just sit and watch TV for a while. So all those hopes and plans of doing something are out the window for personal gain in the moment. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
Or I get something out of the fact that I'm avoiding it in that moment. I don't know. It's not helping my future self, but myself in the moment is happy.
Right.
But then it all builds up, and I'm, whatever. But
I totally agree with that future self piece, Joe, because that's actually something that worked for me. I used to be the guy who would have the bills sitting on the desk for a long time, and then before everything was online, the bills would come in, and they'd just sit there, and I'd pay them at the last possible date. But I realized that those bills take up a little bit of space, just a little bit of space in my head. I'm always just thinking about, there's that thing that I still have to do, and so I decided to try to change that, and it was kind of an identity shift. Like, instead of I am a person who keeps their bills on the desk, I'm a person who pays them on time or immediately. So I get to the point now where it's almost a manic shift from that, where it's like, I get the bill, I write the check immediately, or whatever that is. If there's some sort of little ask of me, I want to get that taken care of immediately to get it kind of off my plate, so I don't have to think about it anymore. And that's helped me become a pretty rapid email responder, and anything that's kind of a little ask of me, I want to kind of get that off my plate, because it feels a lot better to have nothing kind of hanging over me.
That's good. I'm glad that has been a good shift for you. I like that, getting into that habit of just doing it. Getting it out of the way.
With this trait, I'm curious what you think. This trait has been associated with millennials, that millennials in general, you mentioned teens as well, tend to struggle with this issue. Is there some truth to that? Or because a lot of young people feel the same way, feel the same pressure, the same challenges, is there a millennial connection, do you think?
I don't know. I'm not too sure if there is a connection or not, or if it's a generational thing. I'm really not too sure. I wonder if it is, then I would ponder, is that partly due to technology? The fact that there is so much more and everything happens so much quickly, like faster, and there might be a bigger demand to respond quicker. At what point is ongoing pressure to do that on a consistent basis, leading to some sort of burnout. So you get a teenager who's getting text messages and homework and everything that's coming through. At
Right.
what point do you just shut down and say, no, I got to stop?
Mm.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Mm.
There you are.
So, well, Dennis, how about in your generation? Is there? We're talking about millennials. I guess I could talk about Gen X. What about in your generation? What have you noticed as far as are there any trends or any sort of like maybe lifespan sort of trends that you've noticed?
Well, I'm a boomer, come in at the beginning of the baby boomer crowd. So I think times were different back there. I don't think we had as much wealth as we do now. I think we had a simpler life in some ways. So it wasn't as hard to maybe get stuff done. We certainly didn't have the influences that Brooke was just talking about. As you know, none of that was around at all. It was a much simpler time. So that probably helped. And maybe there's a discipline issue there as well. I don't know. But there weren't the distractions, you know, like I could follow a plan more easily back then regarding school or whatever. And I didn't have all these other distractions coming at me. There were things there, but nothing like what we have now. So I think our generation probably planned ahead a bit more, like to have things ready to go so that if we ran out of something, we had it in reserve, you know, that kind of thing. So I think we had a simpler time of it, you know, I really do.
It's interesting. I guess as you're talking about that, you're saying that things were a little slower, maybe, as far as the kind of the onslaught of information coming your way and demands coming your way. And because it's a little slower, that allows you to think in a broader, you know, you can think about the perspective of thinking about the future and like, okay, what might things be like months from now, right?
Yeah, it was simpler in some ways, and yet very, very colorful. I remember sitting in my dad's lap listening to the radio. A show called Gunsmoke was a radio show, or Gangbusters, and the creativity, like the colors and the imagery in my head, it was very entertaining. So we've lost that now. We don't have, because everything's spelled out in front of you. So there's a creative piece there too that I think might have worked or sort of spread out to other parts of our lives. I don't know.
I wonder too, just thinking of the differences there, millennial generation, because millennial generation has never not had technology, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of the defining factor of that, and younger. But so at what point is there differences? Like, is there an actual addictive brain piece to this? We all know that social media, video games, like a lot of use on the computer is actually geared to be addictive. So at what point are we actually falling into active addiction instead of procrastination a little bit?
Well, when Joanna was talking, I was wondering about distraction. How distractible are we? And we're so easily distracted by our media. I mean, we take a look and 45 minutes can fly by looking at my phone. So I think it's maybe procrastination and distraction are sort of intertwined in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get to some practical stuff here. You know, Joanna was asking, not for herself, but in general, what sort of guidance we might be able to give to somebody who's dealing with procrastination. And we already touched on a couple things. I like the idea of the thinking of your future self, you know, kind of giving a gift to tomorrow you by getting this thing off your plate, and some ideas of like, yeah, how much distress are you going to actually feel if you don't do it versus how much it will feel if you do it. Are there any other ideas you guys have about how we could help a procrastinator who doesn't want to be a procrastinator, right? This is not the one who says, I love the stress of an all-nighter, you know, someone who says, you know, procrastination is actually miserable for me and it's causing me problems. What might we say to someone who's asking for that help?
Well, I go back to my baby steps, take a little chunk at a time. If I go spend an hour, actually more than half an hour in my den, I come out of there feeling like I've accomplished a lot when really I've just started. And then when I go in there again, I'm not as intimidated. So I guess we're back to time management in a way. But I'm a list maker. I have a list on my desk. When I think of something that needs doing, I put it down there. And I get a great kick out of crossing stuff off on lists. So I try to keep it to one list so I don't have to have a list of my lists, because that can get a little excessive. But one list there, the date's on there. So that's a very simple thing that works really well for me.
That's great. I
Yeah,
love that. I'm just going to piggyback on what Dennis is saying real quick and to say, I love that idea of like little chunks. And I'll even go even smaller than that and tell people, how about you just do it for 5 minutes? You know, because that's a real easy sell to somebody, right? Yeah. I'm going to go work on that for 5 minutes. Oftentimes after you get going for 5 minutes, you feel, oh, I'm making some progress. This is pretty fun. This isn't so bad. So you just keep on going. But if you can kind of trick your brain into thinking this is just a small chunk of time, you might be able to slide your way into getting the job done.
Kind of like a way of breaking the ice a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Ryan, I use that as well, but instead of saying 5 minutes, I say one song.
Uh-huh.
What is your favorite song? Can you do that for one song? And when the song's done, you're done. So I actually, it's just an adaptation to Margaret Renenberg. In her book and in her works, she suggests using commercial breaks, but that kind of dates the work a little bit because people aren't really watching TV with commercial breaks. So she suggested when the commercial break comes on, you go and you try to do one simple task. So if it's unloading the dishwasher, or maybe you switch the laundry, and then commercial breaks over, you go back to the show. No big deal, right? We're not doing this for a long time. But unfortunately, we don't have that now. So I say, can you do it for one song?
You get to sing the song as you do it, or you just listen to the tune, or what?
Well, you could sing if you want. Sure. Go for it.
That's great. That's great. I like that.
Years ago, I remember getting up on a Saturday morning. Everybody was still sleeping, and I was sitting in my easy chair having a coffee, and I thought, I got a lot of chores to do this morning, but I'll do it when I feel a little more motivated. Had a bit of coffee, still wasn't feeling really good about doing chores. Then I thought to myself, if I don't get out of this chair right now and do these chores, I'm going to sit in this chair all day. So it's like telling your muscles, get me out of this chair. Like I read somewhere, this guy talking to his muscles, tell your muscles to take you for a walk, whether you feel like it or not. And then once you're in the walk, you feel like being on the walk. And so I started doing my chores, and I couldn't believe after very few moments how sweet it felt. We were getting stuff done, and you know, I was shocked actually about the transition from being in the chair to telling the muscles to take me and start to do the chores. The difference in reaction there.
Mm-hmm.
This is great. If we're talking about the sort of procrastination, which kind of has to do with perfectionism, where someone's afraid of failing, you know, they could do the work, but they're afraid of like, oh, what, you know, I'm afraid I'm going to screw this up, or it's not going to turn out very well. I like to have people kind of split out their kind of creative side and their editing side, right? Split out the judgment part. Say, let's just, okay. And this, I do a lot of writing, so this is something that I use a lot with my writing. I find I get really stuck if I'm trying to both create something and edit it at the same time. So I just need to split those apart and say, okay, now I'm just going to write and just going to do a bunch of free writing and write whatever I need to do. And I'm going to save the judgment for afterwards, right? Then I can come in with my editor and kind of edit the work. Because two of them at the same time, it's like having the gas and the brake on at the same time. You just don't go anywhere. So if there's some way to help people to say, look, if you don't like, if it feels too scary for you, just give it a shot with no judgment, and then you can bring in the more constructive criticism later on. But for now, just have fun with it and go free, you know?
Brian, that makes me think. I've heard from people and young folk as well, as if I know I can't do it great, or that perfectionism, if it's not going to be perfect, then I'm not, if they don't want to start it. Or I've also heard if I can't complete it, or if I know I can't complete it fully, I don't want to start it. And I've also heard things like, what's the point? I don't find a purpose. I find that in some young kids as well. Like, this homework assignment won't even matter. Or like, what, I know I've gotten away, there's that really lack of motivating, and the why bother. also feeds into that a lot. Which makes me think if, you know, in addition to looking at some time management tricks or just that behavioral activation or just do little bits at a time, if there's more stuff going on there, you can explore like the avoidance feelings and, you know, what do you think are you afraid of anything, or maybe dig a little bit deeper to see if there's more that's kind of feeding into that.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big one. When someone says that statement you just made about from the kid, like, what does it matter? It doesn't matter anyway. Gosh, even saying that matters, you know, that's something that matters. Like I can't do it, or I don't think I can complete it. And so I guess it just doesn't matter. They're kind of giving up on themselves at that point. And that's what matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saying I can't is what matters. So we want them to at least try if we can,
Sure.
to help them feel a little bit of a little self-reliance there on that point.
And there might be some anxiety there, right? Things start building up and it's too overwhelming, or just the daunting aspect of it. So it's helping people maybe with that anxiety or helping kind of shift the way they're thinking about it and break it down into pieces or shifting those negative thoughts. So.
And that's another component to this. It might just be the relational part to this too, right? I've known people before who will say, you know, I could do the work if I just had someone else in the room with me, you know, or someone else who's working alongside me, you know, just we're both doing this together. And I know that's harder in COVID times, but you know, the whole thing of the shared office spaces was a big deal before COVID happened because people just wanted to be together while they're doing their work. And that might be a component to this too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if stress in general affects us in this way. If our stress levels are really high, our motivation, we know when people are depressed, their motivation is low. Stress levels get high. We can have the best plans in the world. We just don't have the jump to get it done. So maybe we got to make sure we're getting the fresh air and doing the other good things we try to do to keep ourselves healthy. Because I think our motivation generally is affected by how stressed out we get, how fatigued we are. And people are grieving. We know they get really unmotivated for a while because that huge amount of emotion inside them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they bring it down, they seem to have more energy to live again. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that, Dad. You can have the best plan, but you have to start it, and some people don't, right? Like they can schedule the heck out of their week, and you know, if it's around homework or around a chore list for yourself, but then it's the doing part, and what is it that is stopping you from doing that? Like, what is it? And taking care of yourself just on a regular basis and managing that stress and making sure you're checking in with yourself would all be very valuable.
Great. Okay. Any other thoughts on this topic? Are we feeling like we have a clear path to, like, Dennis? I guess I'm wondering, really, this boils down to you, Dennis. Are you going to take care of that den? What's going to happen next?
Yeah, I'm going to go in there tomorrow and I'm going to put an hour in. I'm going to think of you guys. I'm going to go in and maybe do an hour and a half, see if I can't get her done. My wife has offered to come in and do it in about 2 hours, clean the whole place out. There'll be nothing left for me to do. So if push comes to shove, I can delegate. But, I will give it a try. I'll try, Ryan. I'll try.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I hope that goes well. I can think of a few tasks of my own that I could probably tackle as well, telling myself I'll just do it for 5 minutes and then maybe that will take over. You know, the motivation will show up then. Yeah. And Joe, I'm sure you've already tackled all your procrastination issues. So
I have a list of things, but yeah, I think it's just a good little reminder. I think it's easy to get for people who might have a lot of things that are weighing on them. Just be kind to yourself. Honestly, I think there's a lot of we should on ourselves and what we think we should be able to do or expectations for ourselves. And so it's like, hey, fresh start, new day, you know, take a little bite off, and you don't need to look at the whole picture, just one little bit at a time, and make that list. And if you don't get to everything, let's look at the thing you did get done and have that kind of feed your motivation, and so lots to explore there with people. But yes, I will work on let's bring out my book, my big list here. Yes, I will tackle continuing to get boxes of things to donate and get rid of.
Oh, I love it.
I'm trying to purge. So I have unfinished business here, so I'll spend maybe, let's say, an hour on that tomorrow.
Minimizing. Brooke, is there anything you need to tackle?
I have my list going. Yeah, so there's things. I'm probably not too much of a procrastinator. I'm probably the opposite of Joanna.
Yeah,
I'm at ACT now.
you're a good doer.
I get caught in the putting too much on my plate, the busyness. And then when there's too much on the plate, then things don't get done. Not because I'm not procrastinating, like other things are taking precedence over others. So
Yeah.
I think tomorrow there's some items that I can check off my list for some reports and things for clients that have
Great.
been pushed to the wayside. So,
Good for you. Well, that's good, you guys. That's our time for the day. So, for all you listeners out there, if you will just take 5 minutes and like and subscribe to us on Apple, Google, or Podbean, or check us out on YouTube. Send your questions to info@mentalhealthbootcamp.com. Visit us on Facebook or Instagram. Please tell a friend. Dennis, it's so great to have you here tonight. Thank you so much. Come back anytime.
My pleasure. I'd be happy to sub. If you need a sub once in a while, I'd be happy to.
Oh, that'd be great. In fact, I think we're probably just going to replace Chris with you, if that's okay.
He's out. Done. We'll have to have you come back, Pop. Maybe a planned little guest speaker when Chris is here. I know you have a wealth of knowledge to share. So
Yeah, it'd be great.
Happy to do that. Thanks for the invite.
So from Madam, Merlin, Minnie, and Columbo, we wish you all a good night. And the wizard.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody. Good night. Bye-bye.